This is the Guernsey Deep Dive Podcast. Dive into discussion on local news and events.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to really unpack stories that grab the headlines, but we want to go deeper than just what happened. We look at why it matters.
Exactly.
And today, wow, we have a case that really hits hard. It touches on trust, vulnerability, and the hidden, devastating side of deception.
It really does.
Our sources for this are reports from BBC News and the Guernsey Press, both published very recently, August 21st, 2025. They detail the case of Biljana Zekavica. She's a former carer, and her actions have, well, they've caused huge ripples in her community. It brings up some pretty unsettling things about people.
And what's fascinating here, I think, isn't just the factual crime report. It's how this challenges our basic ideas about trust, especially trust placed in someone meant to care.
Right.
It makes you ask, what happens when the very person you trust with someone vulnerable becomes the one betraying them? So our mission today is to look at the specific details, try to understand the mechanics of this kind of deception and what it tells us about trust in our communities, not just Guernsey, but anywhere.
Okay, let's get into the specifics then. It's quite disturbing. At the heart of this is Biljana Zekavica. She's 53, a former carer in Guernsey, and she was just convicted, pled guilty to 10 counts of fraud.
10 counts.
Yeah, 10. And just to break that down a bit, it's 4 counts of making a false representation, basically lying to get money, and another 6 counts of just general fraud.
So a pattern, not just a one-off.
Definitely a pattern. And the court acted fast. She was sentenced at Guernsey Royal Court just this past Wednesday, August 21st. 4.5 years in prison.
4.5 years? That's a significant sentence.
It really is. It shows how seriously they took these crimes and, the impact.
And the official language used is quite telling, isn't it? Guernsey police called it a calculated campaign of deceit.
Calculated, yeah.
Targeted vulnerable people. They said she took advantage of vulnerable individuals by deceiving them to obtain money.
Deceiving them with false stories.
Exactly. And what makes this so jarring when you step back is her job title, carer. That word, it implies so much trust, doesn't it? You let these people into your life, your home, often when you're not at your strongest.
Absolutely.
So this isn't just a crime. It feels like a fundamental betrayal. It sort of shakes the foundation of a profession that's supposed to be built on care, reliability.
A violation of a sacred trust, as you said.
Precisely.
So we know what she was convicted of.
Yeah.
But how did she pull it off? Let's dig into her methods, because this is where it gets really unsettling.
Okay.
The sources lay out her modus operandi, the way she worked. She created these very specific false stories to basically prey on her victims.
What kind of stories?
Well, she'd tell them she urgently needed money for, say, work on a house she was selling, or, and this is really cruel, she needed it for urgent dental work or medical treatments.
Oh, wow. Things people can relate to, things that trigger empathy.
Exactly. And the scale of it. It's staggering. 5 men were victims, and between them, she defrauded them of more than £230,000.
230,000.
Yeah. And the court heard some of these men were elderly, vulnerable, and just tragically, some have actually passed away since. They never got to see the final outcome.
That's just awful. It's hard to even process 5 men. And those specific stories, medical emergencies, housing problems, why are they so effective? You have to ask, right? Well, it's because they're not just abstract lies, are they? They tap into things we all worry about, our own health, our family's health, having a roof over our heads. We're kind of wired to help people in those situations.
Yeah, it pulls at the heartstrings.
It really does. And when someone you see as a carer tells you this story,
yeah,
it just bypasses your usual defenses. You trust the role, so you trust the story. It's a powerful emotional lever.
Almost irresistible, like you said.
Yeah. And Judge Catherine Fuchs actually quoted one of the victims in court. He described her actions as shameful and detestable.
Shameful and detestable. That sums it up.
It captures that feeling of being personally violated, doesn't it? It wasn't just the money, though that's huge. It was the abuse of their kindness, their compassion, using their willingness to help against them.
And behind these stories, these lies designed to exploit empathy, the truth of where the money went is, well, it's pretty grim.
Right. The contrast is stark.
Totally. The money she claimed was for urgent needs. It actually went straight to funding her own lifestyle.
Yes.
Things like designer clothes, shoes, and maybe the most telling detail, she had a massive scratch card addiction. spending around 500 pounds a week on them.
500 pounds a week on scratch cards.
Yeah. Can you imagine? And the prosecutor, Crown Advocate Chris Dunford, he said she was caught in this spiral of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
The classic debt cycle.
Exactly. Using new money, often fraudulently obtained, just to try and cover older debts, just digging the hole deeper and deeper.
You know, that detail about the addiction, the scratch cards, it's a really important piece of the puzzle, psychologically speaking.
How so?
Well, it shows how addiction can create this massive disconnect, cognitive dissonance. The need to feed the habit, or maybe the escape it provides, it starts to override everything else. Ethics, consequences.
It becomes the priority.
It becomes the priority. The lie isn't just a lie anymore. It's almost like a desperate way to self-medicate, to keep the cycle going.
Yeah.
That 500 pounds a week habit completely blows up the narrative of urgent medical need, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It just exposes that internal battle trying to keep up appearances while wrestling with these hidden pressures and, destructive habits.
So what about her side of the story? What did the defense say?
Okay, yeah, let's look at that.
Her lawyer, Advocate Sam McDonald, argued that Zekovica genuinely thought of the money as being borrowed, that she really intended to pay it back.
Borrowed. 230,000 pounds.
Right. And apparently she wanted to apologize to everyone she'd hurt. The court also heard about her own struggles. Now, she didn't need money for the specific treatments she told victims about. That was a lie. But she did have her own significant health problems. And she described herself as being in a mental whirlwind for years.
A mental whirlwind.
Yeah. Apparently she used buying expensive things as sort of comfort. And the scratch card habit.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly started as a desperate attempt to win money to pay back the debts she was already racking up.
Ah, the gambler's fallacy. Trying to win back losses.
Seems like it. And the consequences for her personally have been huge. Lost her home, family, job, reputation. At one point, she was living in her car.
Wow.
And the lawyer claimed she had nothing to show for the money she had spent.
But hang on. While that paints a picture of chaos and struggle, does it excuse targeting vulnerable people? The judge seemed to have doubts about the nothing to show for it part.
Yeah, Judge Fuchs mentioned that.
And that's such a critical point. A mental whirlwind might explain how the debt started, maybe. But it doesn't really excuse the calculated deception, the targeting of specific people over a long period.
It's the deliberateness that's hard to reconcile with just chaos.
Exactly. It's not about justifying what she did, but trying to grasp that internal conflict. Maybe the whirlwind distorted her thinking, made the continued lying seem like the only way out, even if it clearly wasn't.
A desperate means to an end.
Perhaps. But the judge struggled to accept that nothing to show for its claim, because even if it wasn't yachts and mansions, that money was funding something, a costly addiction, a certain lifestyle, however chaotic. The harm to the victims was very real, very tangible.
And the harm goes beyond just the victims and the money, doesn't it? There are wider ripples here.
Definitely.
Judge Fuchs made a point of saying that Zekovica's actions, especially doing this while working as a carer, could impact on the public's perception of those who perform such services.
That's huge. That's the community impact right there.
It erodes trust, doesn't it, in a whole profession?
Massively. And that raises such an important question. How does one person's awful betrayal damage public confidence in all carers? Especially when caring for vulnerable people is so essential, so intimate.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about people becoming suspicious of individuals. It can lead to more red tape for the honest, hardworking carers. It can make vulnerable people hesitant to even seek help because they fear being exploited like this.
That's a terrible outcome.
It is. And the police statement reflected that concern. They stressed how important it is to safeguard people who might be targeted by offenders looking to exploit trust for personal gain.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that the damage isn't just financial. It hits the social fabric, the trust that holds communities together.
What an incredibly impactful story this has been. Just to quickly recap the key points. We've talked about Biljana Zekovica, a former carer in Guernsey, defrauded 5 vulnerable men, took over 230,000 pounds, got sentenced to 4.5 years in prison.
Devastating breach of trust.
Yeah, exactly. In a role that's all about trust and compassion, driven, it seems, by a hidden addiction and desperation.
And the really big thought this leaves you with, I think, just how fundamental trust is in everything we do, every day.
Right.
And how incredibly hard it is to shield ourselves from people who deliberately set out to exploit that trust, especially when they hide behind a mask of care.
Yeah, that's the chilling part.
This case shows some of the worst fraud isn't a smash and grab. It's this slow, methodical erosion of empathy, turning someone's kindness against them. It's quite a lesson in the psychology of deception.
It really is. It's a tough balance, isn't it? This case highlights that awful paradox. The very systems we create for comfort and care can be turned into weapons. So it leaves you thinking, how do we protect empathy? How do we keep it strong without making it a weak spot? How do we build a trusting society where vulnerable people can rely on carers?
While still being watchable, still being discerning about those who might abuse that trust.
Exactly. It's a difficult question. Definitely something to think about until our next deep dive.
Thanks for listening to Guernsey Deep Dive. Don't forget to follow for the latest updates. Any questions or queries, email guernseydeepdive@gmail.com.